I'd like to call the Common Council meeting to order for October 5th of the City of LaPorte. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance with Councilwoman West. I'd like to call the Common Council
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands, one
nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty
and
and justice
for all.
Before we begin, I would like to tell the public, due to an individual that tested positive to COVID, we have had some last minute changes to our meeting and are not able to host it in person this evening. We hope we'll have update for tomorrow, but as of right now, we were all working on this meeting together on Zoom from each of our safe homes. And if you have questions, Nick Otis, our attorney, will be monitoring those questions, but we will update you hopefully by tomorrow with the latest information. So with that, roll call by Clerk Treasurer Parthun.
Councilwoman Brown.
Here.
Councilwoman Ficus.
Present.
Councilwoman West.
Here.
Councilman Galloway. I see him and it says he's connecting to audio. Councilwoman Cutler. Councilman Frankie.
Present.
Councilman Vincent. Is that all present, Nick?
Roger is showing obviously that he's logged in, but I think you can say 6 present, and then when Roger connects, before you take any action, just acknowledge his presence.
Okay.
We do have 6, and we'll wait on Councilman Galloway.
Yep.
Do I have a motion for approval of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the approval of minutes. Is there any discussion?
And that's for both minutes.
I'm sorry?
Mayor, that's for both sets of minutes. There was one for the budget workshop and then just our regular September 21st meeting.
So we do have a motion for the approval of 2 sets of minutes and a second. Is there any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Did that include Councilman Galloway? So Nick, should we leave? I mean, can he make a motion physically with a thumbs up?
He doesn't have video. Roger, can you hear us? Mayor, right now, I would say that's a 6-0 vote.
Okay, then that motion passes 6-0. Petition and comments of citizens. Do we have any questions or comments from the citizens?
Not yet, Mayor.
And we will go through that again near the end of the meeting. Standing committee reports. Councilwoman Brown.
I have nothing to report, but I will be attending the Traffic Commission tomorrow.
Councilwoman West.
I need to report that the Fire Merit Commission will be meeting this Wednesday. It's on October 7th at 6 o'clock, but I wanted to share something on behalf of the Fire Merit Commission and the city as well. I would like to thank Dot Kessling and the Lindsay O'Brien Kessling Wishing Tree Foundation and our LaPorte Fire Department for offering free carbon monoxide alarms to local families in need this past Saturday. These alarms were made possible due to generous support from the Unity Foundation of LaPorte County, the NiSource Foundation, First Source, and First Alert. Part of the LLK Wishing Tree Foundation is to raise awareness about carbon monoxide poisoning and how to prevent it. Death and injury by accidental carbon monoxide poisoning is preventable. So please check your alarms today to make sure they are operating properly, and check on your loved ones to make sure they remember to check their alarms as well. Please visit lokwishingtree.org to learn more and to receive a discount coupon from First Alert for a carbon monoxide alarm. If someone you know doesn't have a CO alarm, please share this information with them. It's a silent killer, one you can't see, smell, or taste. So please check your alarms today.
Thank you, Councilwoman West. Councilman Vincent?
We have nothing to report tonight. I will also be attending the Traffic Commission meeting tomorrow.
Councilwoman Cutler?
Report, but just a reminder that the bid meeting next Monday will be a Zoom meeting as well.
Councilman Galloway, I don't think can give a report unless you're there. Councilman Frankie?
The redevelopment commission met on Wednesday the 30th, and the representatives from the Quall family were there to discuss a proposal for building a spec building in the Thomas Rose Industrial Park, and the redevelopment commission approved crafting an agreement based on that. Invoices were approved and an update on the boardwalk was given, which construction is wrapping up and should be done relatively soon. The police commission will meet on the 13th at 2 p.m. at the police station. The school board meets on the 12th at 6 p.m. at the Educational Services Center, which is formerly known as Boston Middle School. And I believe tomorrow night at Bethany Church, there is a meet the candidates for school board candidates at, I think, 7 p.m. I'm not positive. You can check Bethany Church's Facebook page for that, but that's all the updates I have.
Councilwoman Ficus?
Okay, tomorrow Traffic Commission will be meeting, but we will be meeting via Zoom. So anyone from the public that wants to attend, dial 1-800-444-2801 and then enter the conference code 9809848. That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ficus. So we will move on now to a second and final reading. Councilwoman Ficus.
I move to read an ordinance for the second time by title only.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilwoman Ficus.
Ordinance for appropriations and tax rates for Civil City for the year 2021.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion regarding the budget.
Thanks again for all your hard work.
Any other discussion? And thank you. Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And Councilman Galloway is on the phone, but cannot connect. So we will change that if he comes a part of this meeting. Councilwoman Cutler, second and final reading.
Ordinance for its second and final reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Councilwoman Cutler.
Ordinance for appropriations and tax rates for the 2021 Redevelopment Commission.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0, again with Councilman Galloway on, but cannot connect audio-wise. And this is passing of the Redevelopment Commission. Councilwoman Brown.
I move to read an ordinance for the second time by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0. Councilwoman Brown.
An ordinance for appropriations and tax rates for 2021 LaPorte Municipal Airport.
So this is for the airport budget discussion. Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion passes 6-0. Again with Councilman Galloway on the call, but cannot connect audio. Councilman Vincent.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to read a second and final reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0. Councilman Vincent.
This is ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the city of LaPorte, Indiana for the year 2021.
So I do have a motion and a second discussion. Councilman Vincent, would you like to repeat from the last meeting the entire ordinance?
No, I'd like to read it by title only.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0, and I do not believe again that Councilman Galloway, who is on the call video, but cannot connect audio-wise. So, Councilman Frankie, second and final reading.
Your Honor, I move to do a second and final reading of an ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0. Councilman Frankie.
An ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the city of LaPorte, Indiana for the year 2021.
So I do have a motion and a second. Hearing none, this is for the elected officials with their salary ordinance for the year of 2021. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 with Councilman Galloway on video, but cannot connect audio-wise. Councilwoman West, introduction of an ordinance.
Your Honor, I would like to make a motion to introduce an ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Councilwoman West.
An ordinance amending ordinance 18-2019 of the city of LaPorte, Indiana to establish salary for a new position in the office of clerk treasurer. Be it, and it is hereby ordained by the Common Council of the city of LaPorte, Indiana, that Section 1, ordinance number 18-2019 of the city of LaPorte, Indiana, adopted by the Common Council on October 21st, 2019, is hereby amended by adding the following position. Office of the Clerk Treasurer. Deputy Clerk Treasurer in training, $42,000. Section 2, in all other regards, ordinance 18-2019 shall be unchanged. Section 3, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its passage and approval by the mayor and publication as required by the law. End of ordinance.
Thank you, Councilwoman West. Clerk Treasurer Parkin, would you like to add to this?
Sure. I can just tell you that we have the opportunity, once decided by council, to begin training for a new deputy clerk treasurer. As you all know, Joni Lehman will be retiring at the end of next year. It's just, as the opportunity has presented itself, we would like to add this position to the salary ordinance this year It will be in a part-time capacity this year upon approval, and I can give you more details on numbers at the next reading.
This is an important situation when we have Deputy Clerk Treasurer Lehman with 23 years of experience. This is a must that has to start this year. So is there any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, we will move to agenda item number 13, utilities presentations with Director Jerry Jackson. Jerry, are you connected?
I hope so. Do you hear me?
Can
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
And I think this is, Jerry, as we lead into this, it's important for our community to understand that because we are an older community and our infrastructure is very old, and we cannot kick the can down the road. And I thought it was important that Jerry Jackson begin the process with not only council, but with the public to discuss the issues that we are facing in front of us.
The mayor's got it right. Every year you hear Purdue come out with the grading for infrastructure, and we always the nation as a whole always gets a D or maybe a C, and LaPorte's an old town. It's time we do. We've been attacking these problems, but there's a long list. We're not gaining, I'd say. So I was going to talk about some of the stormwater and treatment plant projects in the works tonight. I was going to talk just pretty much about projects, talk about costs and rates at the next meeting, and in the meanwhile, between the meetings, pass some information along so you have time to think about it and ask questions. Tim will probably have an opportunity to talk next meeting about some of the water projects.
Yeah.
I tend to talk in jargon, and so I'll try not to do that. And if there are questions, make sure you ask, because I can be unclear. So I'll get going.
Hey Jerry, I'm going to share through the Zoom. I realized the way I was going to share there'd be a delay and it'd be hard for you to follow along. So let me just pull up your presentation real quick and we'll get moving.
I got it on both screens now. All right, well, let's go to the first screen then. Or go ahead and get the next slide.
All right, just give me 1 second, sir. You know what? I'm just gonna go with the way I had it, and can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just cue you as we go along, Jerry, but we'll start on the first slide.
All right, very good. LaPorte, you've probably heard, we've got about 75% combined sewers. A combined sewer carries stormwater and sanitary sewage. When you flush your toilet, wash your clothes. There's a reason for that. LaPorte has virtually no streams. So if you want to build a storm sewer, it's very hard to find a place to discharge the water. So around the turn of the last century, they started on the Madison Street combined sewer, which was a 78-inch pipe, which is kind of amazing in 1901 that started building that project. But combined sewers, and their aim at that time was get the wastewater and stormwater out of town. We've got a lot of wetlands. In those days, they were swamps and viewed as unhealthy. And we've learned a lot meanwhile, but get the water out of town and get the sewage out of town for everyone's health. It was easier in those days. We didn't have a sewage plant, so no need to treat it. But combined sewers result in basement backups when you get too big a storm, and then the sewer overloads. You get street flooding, and of course all that water in this day and age has got to be treated, so it overloads the sewage treatment plant. Next slide.
Okay.
I'm seeing you.
There'll
Is
be
it
a
working?
delay.
Okay. Are we going? I can't see the slides.
You're just gonna have to trust me. There'll be a delay on your end, but we're up
All
with
right.
stormwater, Chicago Deep Tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. We solved our problem with the overloading the sewage plant. In our last big project, we were required by the state of Indiana and the EPA to stop overflows. When I first got here, we would overflow every time it rained. Untreated wastewater down to the Kankakee River. Now it happens every other year, every third year. We're in much better shape than a lot of the area communities like South Bend and Mishawaka that have an overflow anytime there's, a 1/10 inch or a quarter inch. And they're spending a lot of money to solve that problem. We've kind of already solved it. Our system works like the Chicago's Deep Tunnel. We just got a big basin. Excess flow goes into that basin. Then after the storm, we have 30 million gallons. And after the storm, we pump it back to the treatment plant. Store and treat, so to speak. Next slide, if you would.
By the way, Jerry, before you go, are the council all seeing the slides?
No.
Because I'm not seeing them either.
You'll have to pull up the Facebook feed to see it. I'll also email everybody the presentation so you can follow along.
All right. I'm gonna.
We're on the
have
third
trouble
slide
with this because some of the slides are, so the solution to combined sewers are separation, where you build a new storm sewer, or underground storage, which is what Chicago did because there wasn't room to build storm sewers and stormwater basins. My slide is of our Torino basin, where we store stormwater, and when we separate sewers into letters and number streets, the water will go there.
Next slide.
The next, I got a picture of our combined sewer overflow at the treatment plant. It's a 25-foot wide waterfall of untreated sewage going into Travis Ditch down to the Kankakee River. So that's what we've put it into, but we still have other problems to fix. I got a whole bunch of pictures here of flooding, which you're not going to get to see.
And so everybody, make sure you get on the Facebook link so you can see these photos.
And I'm also sending you the presentation, but Jerry, I've got the pictures and the slides are going on the Facebook and YouTube stream we've got going.
Okay, excellent. If you want to go through those, just one by one so that the public can see them. The last one is gross as can be. That one was a facility that backed up in a combined sewer, a little computer shop, and they were connected, shared a common sewer with a little automotive repair shop, and the whole place flooded with oil and sewage. So that one I pull out when, that one's a bad one. If you go to stormwater now,
okay.
I already hit on this points. We've got surface flooding and we've got basement backup. So we still, even though we don't have combined sewer overflows, we still have problems to fix. Some of the ones I wanted to attack this go around, there's the 600 block of B Street, letters and number streets, Monroe Manor and Southmoor Road. I'll go through those one at a time. And I've got some pictures of them, which B Street is by the bus barn. It's just a low area that's too low to drain to the combined sewer area. So, and the soils are all muck. It used to be a wetland, so the water just sits on the street until we come and pump it off. We've got a solution for that. We acquired the Soapy's Ocean, the old woolen mills, and that's the long-term solution. In the short term, we've got a way to get that water to the combined sewer. The residents there have put up with a lot because if you can imagine, every time it rains, our street floods and it stays flooded until we show up to pump it down. The letters and the number streets are, I Street over to Andrew. We've been referring to as letters and numbers. I to Andrew, and then 18th to 10th. That's a combined sewer area. The drainage for 6 blocks will be by a 10 or 12-inch pipe, which is crazy. So when it rains hard, that area floods. I got a picture of a half grading there. They knew there were problems when they built that, and so they built the gradings with only half the openings in the normal grading. So that was to try to prevent basement backups, which it helps, but it's not great. So the solution to that is sewer separation. We built a combined sewer a storm sewer last year on 18th Street to serve that area, and I propose our next project is to connect to that storm sewer and run new storm sewers through the neighborhood and separate sewers. I've got a picture of a bunch of kids running through the stormwater, playing, riding their bikes. It's flooded all the way up to front stoops. That happened earlier this year when we had an intense rain. It's kind of neat to see kids playing with it, except that water's not very clean. Kids really should not play in it. So I've got a whole laundry list of smaller projects that don't affect a large number of people, but affect some people rather strongly. In the 600 block of Southmoor, their backyards flood and stay flooded for months on end. They receive drainage from the surrounding properties, and they've really got no way to fix it. So I would like to go after that one. That one would be a drain to the combined sewer, a controlled slow flow drain. And then when we separate sewers and reconstruct Indiana Avenue, which is scheduled for 2025, it would drain to new Indiana Avenue sewer. Another one, this is a larger one, Monroe Manor. Monroe Manor, we started on, it's been 5 years now. We spent about $2 million to do about 40% of the neighborhood. These streets are in horrendous shape. The curbs are up and down, so you got puddles that last and last. So the puddles, actually, because they last and there's leaves, that's pretty nasty smelling water that these poor people get to put up with. The sewers are full of roots. That was wartime construction. So when World War II, if they ran out of clay tile pipe, they switched to concrete. So there's all kinds of really poor construction techniques all through that neighborhood. When we did the first phase, we replaced the sidewalks, curb and gutter, road, sewer, and water. So they essentially had brand new infrastructure in the streets. As I said, we got a little more than 40% done. I'd like to finish that project. I get a lot of flack about that project because the residents see what happened in the first phase and say, boy, we'd really like that. And I'd invite you to drive through the neighborhood. The part we did looks dramatically better than the rest of the neighborhood. People, I think, take pride in their property. They fix it up, and everything just looks better when they got new streets and new infrastructure. The last projects I want to talk about were our treatment plant projects. The treatment plant was built in the 30s, and we had a major renovation in 1950, 1987. We did our CSO work. We've done some smaller projects, but we did our combined sewer overflow work in 2006. And our headworks, which is the part of the plant that treats the raw wastewater coming in, that was last rehabbed in 87. So we're getting pretty far down the road, and it's time to do some work on the headworks. The first thing that happens with the treatment plant is the water is screened to get out rags, to get out lots and lots of wipes, where we get those terribly nowadays. Any kind of debris you could think of, lots of clothes, plastics, bottles, all sorts of stuff come down. Some of it from houses, some of it from combined sewer drains. all that stuff needs to come out because it plugs pumps, it damages equipment. So we have screens that screen out that coarse material. The screens were put in, the building was 87, the screens were put in the late 90s. The project would replace those with finer screens. The ones we have are mechanical and they've just reached the end of their useful life. And another part of the headworks that needs work is the grit removal. Grit is coffee grounds and sand and inorganic material that just eats pumps alive. You know, that coarse, gritty, sharp material eats pumps, and it's inert, so it accumulates in our bioreactors and doesn't go away. So it fills up our bioreactors, and eventually you have to clean those things, which is an expensive, really dirty job. The grit chambers were built in 87. They are beyond their mechanical life, need to be replaced. There's better technology out nowadays using fewer moving parts, using swirl concentrators. The intent is to replace these old chain and bucket grit chambers with modern swirl units. Another rather large project we have with the treatment plant is biotower wall replacement. The biotowers were part of the 87 construction. They've had some work done on them. We've replaced the media since, the internals. This is a bioreactor. We spray water over the plastic media inside these towers, and the bacteria that live on them eat the ammonia. Ammonia is a toxic pollutant that's in wastewater. And so these take out the ammonia. Ammonia would kill fish and downstream life that lives in Travis Ditch and the Kankakee River. The concrete walls are falling apart, and so the internals of the equipment are all good. We need to do a bunch of repair on that. The next project for the treatment plant is phosphorus removal facilities. You may have come across the idea of phosphorus from there. There's a move to have no phosphorus fertilizers for your lawn. Phosphorus is a nutrient that causes algae blooms. You've probably heard about some of the toxic algae that are out there, and this encourages their growth. It also is part of the dead zone where the Mississippi River comes in the Gulf of Mexico. The algae blooms consume all the oxygen in the water, and then fish and other wildlife can't live in the water anymore. So Indiana, kind of late in the game, has issued regulations requiring treatment plants to remove phosphorus. There are some biological ways to do it, but the most cost-effective way to do it for LaPorte, as it turns out, is to use chemical. If you do it using biological processes, you still have to add the chemical process. IDEM requires both. So what we would do is we would add some tankage and some pumps. They use either iron salts or aluminum salts. Alum is an aluminum salt you can use, and ferric chloride is an iron salt you can use. It binds up the phosphorus, sinks to the bottom of the tank, and you take it out with all the solids. It generates a great deal of solids, and it actually can increase the treatment plant solids production by 40%. So there's a significant operational cost, not just in chemical, but additional solids handling. But that's a requirement that IDEM gave us, and we have to have that completed by 2003. By 4 or 5 months into next year, I have to have a construction permit down to IDEM so they know what we're doing and can approve it. So,
is that 2023, Jerry?
2023, yes, I said 3 tonight. 2023, it's got to be completed in operation and the treatment plant's in compliance. The last project I wanted to talk about for the treatment plant is a transition to away from chlorine, gas chlorine. Gas chlorine is very effective at disinfecting the wastewater. We meet our coliform. We meet the beach standard for coliforms. So our effluent is typically have lower E. coli counts than you might measure in lakes. That chlorine though is a dangerous thing to work around. It's we buy the chlorine in ton cylinders. It's a compressed gas that's compressed to such a state that it's a liquid. It takes just a few breaths full, and you may not make it. Very, very dangerous stuff. We have a bunch of safety equipment and a real good system for using it, but it's been a trend for treatment plants to move away from gas chlorine because of the danger to workers and potentially the danger off-site, people who live in the area. So the alternative is well, there's a couple alternatives. The one that we're looking at is bleach. Bleach is made at Alexander Chemical, just south of Porte down in KOP. And so what this project would involve building tanks and using pumps, and we would pump the bleach into the flow instead of using gas. So it's the same exact process, you're just using bleach instead of chlorine gas. And it's, while bleach isn't, free of hazards, it's a lot safer than chlorine gas. So that's kind of my list of projects that I wanted to talk about. And between now and next meeting, I'll get out some numbers about rates, and I'll send out some more information about each one of these projects. And I encourage you to ask questions and say, why aren't you doing this project? Or you should do this one too. Or, give me some feedback on the projects I've thrown out there. There's a wide range of stormwater issues we need to address. And it's a question of how soon we address problems and which ones we prioritize, which ones we put at the top of the list. So I'll take questions if anyone has questions at this point.
Jerry, thank you. And I think, it's a tough situation for all the new board members or council members that have come here during this most difficult time. But the infrastructure cannot be, again, kicked down the street further. The city has not been able to keep up with the necessary work on the infrastructure, and we have to look at that. There's not enough money, whether it's due to roads. We can't use money from other projects regarding, say, Newport Landing towards this project. The only opportunity, if we want to do something to bond for all this necessary work, is going to be addressing hopefully a slight increase to our water and sewer bill and stormwater bill. We understand, especially for residents, this is a difficult time, but we can't wait till we have an issue. And I don't know how many of you have received numerous phone calls from the number streets with flooding in the street where you step in to knee-high water, going into basements, Monroe Manor, and across the city. But Jerry, all of these dollars, even if they're not affecting a certain neighborhood that a resident lives in, this is addressing citywide. Everybody benefits through us doing this, correct?
Correct. I mean, you have to pick and choose what is the priority. But the mix I put forward here, the treatment plant stuff isn't very fancy or neat, or no one hardly sees it, but it's got to be done. The stormwater projects, you try to address the most pressing, the projects that affect, or the problems that affect the most people. And I've got a couple biggies, the letters and number streets and Monroe Manor, and then have a number of smaller ones scattered about so that we try to cover the city, and these things take time, and you get to them.
Hey,
Are there any questions for Jerry as we talk about this?
Jerry, how do we currently stand compared to other communities in the state with our rates? Are they on par? Or
Tim, could you repeat that question?
Sorry, can you hear me a little better?
Now I can hear you.
How do we stand currently with our rates compared to other cities in the state?
Our rates are well under the average. As it happens, cities our size tend to have the lowest rates. You think of economies of scale, and that does work. As cities get larger, they get cheaper to a point. And as it turns out, we're kind of right at that point. Once you get to larger cities, larger than Porte, they get more expensive. So we're in the lowest category in general compared to other cities, and we're lower than the average in that category. So we're significantly cheaper than other cities, and it's gonna, even as we increase rates, do projects and fix problems, it's likely to stay that way because so many cities are spending huge dollars to fix combined sewer overflows, and we've kind of spent that money. So we're cheap now, but you want to be sensitive to make sure we're competitive and make sure the citizens aren't paying any more than they have to.
And personally, I think it's better to be proactive than reactive for anything, really. But it seems like a lot of this stuff isn't a matter of if it breaks; it's when. And I'd rather get ahead of it.
Do you have an idea, dollar-wise, what residents could expect their utility bill would go up by?
I'll send you kind of a range of numbers of where we're at, and depending on how much water you use, and I'll give you that out several years so you can kind of see where we're at and give you a comparison to other cities. So you can, when you get questions from constituents, you can say, hey, this is about where we plan to be and where we're going to be. I didn't want to get too much into numbers tonight. We're still working through some of that with Baker Tilly.
Other questions?
Mayor, there were a couple comments on social media.
Yes.
Jerry. Jerry, I know you and I have discussed it, or you've discussed this with the city team. Under the new rate structure, there are going to be incentives for property owners to store their own stormwater. Is that correct?
That is correct. The larger customers, commercial and industrial, the stormwater rates for them will be based on hard surface, and customers that parking lots, the roofs, those generate a lot of runoff, and consequently, it's a good metric in order to give everybody a fair bill. But if you've done something to manage your stormwater, especially if you're soaking it in the ground, you're not having as big an impact on the sewer system and on your neighbors. So you ought to get a discount. And our rates have that. Our proposed rates have that built in. It's not an easy thing to do because you have to go site by site and evaluate what people have done. But I think it's a fair thing to do.
And then, Jerry, I couldn't tell if it was multiple people or just one person commenting multiple times about the flood maps. Is the city directly involved in that, or is that something that a different governmental entity controls?
The city initiated the change to the flood maps. We hired a contractor to go through all the data and evaluate the floodplain elevation. That's the highest elevation, and I'm going to get the definition wrong, but it's approximately the highest elevation that you expect to see every 100 years. And the old floodplain elevation didn't take into account the lake drain siphon. And we had not, since it was built, we had never been anywhere near that high lake level because of the siphon. So we petitioned the DNR and the Army Corps of Engineers to review the floodplain elevation. They reviewed our numbers, agreed, and they lowered the floodplain elevation. So that took a bunch of houses out of the floodplain, and so they no longer have to pay flood insurance. So that's a pretty big benefit to a lot of residents around the lakes. The flood insurance is quite expensive.
And from the city's perspective, we have done everything. If it's not updated for somebody yet, we've done everything on our end to. Is that correct?
It's complete. Okay. It's been approved. The whole process is done. It affected our work at Newport Landing, by the way, because that area some of that was in the floodplain. Now it's no longer in the floodplain. But yeah, it's all been approved and complete. So If you go to INDOT or DNR, you'll see a new floodplain map.
Other questions from the council? Nick, any other questions regarding from social media?
Not regarding Jerry, no.
Okay, we're going to continue this process and update the council. I think we've got a good plan, and we will also want to make sure that the public has a voice during this tough time, whether it's live in person or through Zoom, but to make sure their voice is heard. Regarding the utilities presentation, any last questions? Okay, thank you, Jerry, very much.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk, and give me a call or email, and if you got questions, or come up.
And if you have other questions, Jerry will be presenting this to Board of Works tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. As a part of the Board of Works meeting as well. That will be via Zoom, so you can connect to the city of LaPorte for that as well. As we move to other business, Nick Otis, is there any other questions from the public?
Before we get to the questions, Mayor, Courtney and I think Maura, you realize, and Carol, I think you were excited to get all these ordinances passed tonight, but all at this point was the second reading. So there was a motion and a second to do the second readings, but then there wasn't a motion and a second to approve those ordinances. So if items 7 through 12, at this point, we've done second readings, we just need a formal vote on all of those items at this point. I would recommend you do them individually to make sure the record is clear.
Is Mr. Galloway on now? I thought I saw him up here.
He's muted if he is.
I'm sorry?
He's muted if he is.
Okay, I thought he appeared so he could vote. Councilman Galloway, are you on? I even heard his voice once. Okay, so then we will go, we have a motion and a second.
Hey, Mayor, I think he just unmuted. Councilman Galloway?
Hello. Okay, great. Roger, or Councilman Galloway. So Attorney Otis, does he have to first add his name to roll call?
Yes, Courtney, if you want to establish it for these votes. You're on mute, Courtney.
Muted, Courtney.
Sorry, everyone. Councilman Galloway?
Hello,
Present?
present.
Thank you, sir.
Great. We will now go through agenda item first, beginning with number 7. We have a motion and a second for the tax rates for 2021 Civil City. All in favor state by saying aye.
I make a motion to approve the resolution or the ordinances presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Did that include Councilman Galloway?
Yes,
Motion passes 7-0. Do I have a motion for agenda item number 8 for the redevelopment commission?
Make a motion to adopt the tax rates for redevelopment commission.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
This was, I believe, last week, or the last time we mentioned the redevelopment bond in it, and I had mentioned at that point that I was going to abstain from this vote.
So Councilwoman Brown will abstain. All those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 with Councilwoman Brown abstaining. Number 9, second and final reading. Do I have a motion for tax rates for 2021 airport?
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinances presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And then, do we need to do the same thing, Attorney Otis, for number 10 and 11?
Yes, yes.
So do I have a motion on agenda item number 10 for appointed officers and employees of the city of LaPorte for the year 2021?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And then agenda item number 11 regarding elected officials of the city of LaPorte from the general fund. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve the ordinance is presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. So as we go to other business, Attorney Otis, any other last public comment?
If there's a couple questions, Mayor, about the fact that we're on Zoom tonight versus in person. Obviously, there was a press release that was issued today. If you wanted to comment on that and kind of what the protocol was.
Exactly. We were planning on having in-person council meeting today. This morning, we were informed one of our employees from transport tested positive, that we had to close temporarily the transport office, and also had to have testing of those that may have come in contact with that individual, which included myself and Clerk Treasurer Parthun from last week. We are testing, and we are rapid tested, and our goal is to get results back this evening. But as a precaution to the public and to our team at the city of LaPorte and our departments, we're doing our part to set a standard that maybe the federal government is not doing, and we're trying to keep safe and keep everybody safe. And I will tell you this, just saying how one individual testing positive affects the multitude of people, and some with health issues, is a scary situation. So we hope to hear maybe yet even this evening or tomorrow, but for the time being, today's meeting obviously is Zoom, and the Board of Works will be via Zoom tomorrow as well. Any questions from the public or from the council regarding the activity? And I would like to point out Jen Knoll, our Human Resources Director, Annette Leffler at City Hall, as well as Beth West, the manager at Transport. They really stepped up and showed fantastic leadership during this time, and how to react or be proactive to address this situation and get the appropriate people into being tested.
Mayor, and there wasn't a direct question on it, but I know that it came up today about how long transport's going to be closed. You could address that, and obviously I think that's probably a pretty fluid situation.
Correct, and that'll be addressed hopefully by Wednesday, depending on test results. Many people at Transport also went to the Civic, and that usually takes a minimum of 48 hours. And so again, we don't want to put any of our ridership, any of our residents in harm's way until we know that we are safe, and that we can make sure that they are safe. ServPro came in and cleaned the entire Transport building today and all the buses. So once we have test results back, then we'll make appropriate decisions from there. But as of right now, Transport, everybody there will be not in office, and we will not be giving rides during the next couple of days till a minimum of Wednesday. We'll be quarantining.
Mayor, tomorrow's Board of Works will be by Zoom as well, is that correct?
Correct. There's, depending on what happens with test results, I might be in the office, but for sure, it will be in Zoom at least.
And then switching gears, Brian Cager was asking about the process for how the logo, the new logo was developed, why trees were selected, for example, cost, and who we selected.
Well, first of all, the city applied for a grant through the Urban Enterprise Association and received a grant. So we didn't use any of the current budget or city dollars, number one. Number two, our planner worked with a firm that was able to provide quite a firm that had great success with our planner, Tom Casey, and then also with Jess Bruder, worked with them, had done branding and branded standards, which includes, 37 pages of specifics to this brand. If you look at the history report, there's 31 logos minimum around the city. And what do they mean when we're competing not only for business, but for our residents to buy in? And so we went all in for this. Branding is an important part. I've done it personally in our business. And it was important to send a message when we're competing for the best jobs around and competing with other communities that we hear all the time that LaPorte wants to be like. When we're going to compete with those, we have to have a message. And businesses are not looking just to dig up dirt and plop a plant. They want to know what we stand for. And I will tell you this, we have something unique that other communities only wish they had with our parks, with our natural resources and trails and our lakes. And I think, and we want to thank the public that supported this and give us a standard that will allow us to be successful. And Brian, I'll be glad you can call me direct at 363-7293. These individuals have been hired to do their job in each of their departments and make decisions, and I fully support it. The council has been very supportive of it as we work through. Hopefully that answers their question.
And then Jacqueline Snyder had a couple of different comments about concerns about crime near Patton Cemetery and the Civic Auditorium. Mayor, what would you recommend that she do to get that issue resolved? I think there was a break into her truck as well.
Absolutely. I would call the police department and they can contact you the non-emergency number. If you want to message me or text me at 363-7293, I can get that number for you. And please, our police department, we have stabilized. We reached the limit when we used to have, or the goal was to have 44 officers, and we've been down to as low recently as 31 with the pay program that we put in place with approval from the council tonight. We're going to be able to keep officers, but also compete for officers in other communities that already have the preparation needed and they don't have to go to the academy. So we're going to be able to compete now so that we can begin addressing some of these crimes that maybe haven't been addressed in the past due to manpower. So please contact me, message me, and I'll be glad to answer that. Anything else, Attorney Otis?
No.
Anything from the council?
Nope.
I appreciate your patience on this. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Okay.
We are adjourned. Have a great night, everybody.